My name is Eric, and I'd like to welcome you to Vibes Coffee. We pride ourselves on fresh coffee and excellent customer service, but we are much more than that. Whether you want to hang with a few friends, get some work done, or experience the best brew downtown Columbia has to offer, visit us at 622 Canal Side Street. Come for the coffee, stay for the vibes.
I had actually suffered multiple heart attacks. They think a minimum of 4 and actually probably 6. 4 of them I didn't even know I had. They were the silent in-STEMI type, and then 2 of them were very real that I absolutely felt, but I had discounted to be an impinged nerve in my neck, and that was an actual heart attack because none of the symptoms were there. In a man, usually it's their left side. For me, it was my right side. It was slowly progressing. Didn't have high blood pressure, didn't have high cholesterol, didn't have a rapid heart rate, didn't show any of the symptoms or signs. But in retrospect, it was heart attacks.
What's up, Shift family? I am super excited to be sitting in front of you in your houses and your cars, wherever you are. We are down in the vibe this evening for season 2. Vibes Coffee is sponsoring us all season 2. So if you are in and around Columbia, 622 Canal Street, Columbia, South Carolina is the place to be, because Vibes Coffee is most definitely a vibe. Well, today's episode is a little different. I have a guy that talks about how he has 6 heart attacks. He has went through different irony moments in his life. Life has been up and down. He is pushing and continuously pushing alongside me today. Mr. Cosby, how you doing today?
It's great to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm super excited. First, I just want to thank you for just kind of traveling down all the way from, Charlotte to be where you are. We've had multiple different conversations, throughout the evening and throughout the day, and us having a conversation. And I just kind of want to start you're from Southern Indiana.
Yes.
Tell me exactly what Southern Indiana is like.
It's very rural, it's very quiet, and it's very slow. It's the hardwood capital of America. That's pretty indicative of the pace. It's just a slow river town, manufacturing area. It's a great place to live.
What type of still traits did your people, your family taught you growing up whenever you was growing up in Southern Indiana?
Be kind, be patient with people, enjoy what you have, be humble.
Now, when we talked earlier, you talked about how you are the youngest out of 3 boys.
Yes.
And with you being the youngest, what was that life growing up for you, just being the youngest?
Well, it was just a different time and place. Kids were allowed to play and be free, and it just wasn't like now. Pretty much from sunrise to sun up, you were out. You're out on your bike, you were riding bikes, you were playing in the woods, you're playing in the creeks. It's just a totally different vibe.
Being from Southern Indiana, what were some of the things that you think your parents instilled in you early on as you continue to move through life, continue to know that wow, I didn't realize that my parents were instilling in me this along the way?
Probably one of the biggest things that as I've gotten older that I've learned to appreciate is the power of faith and certainly prayer as well.
How did faith and prayer at a younger age start impacting your life when they was teaching you and instilling those things just deep inside of you?
I would say that probably the biggest lessons were life events as you grow older. You lose people around you. Things don't turn out the way you want or the way that you plan. Resilience. God has a plan. Purpose.
Wow.
Purpose and plan.
No, I definitely agree. I think, early on in my life, my mom kind of instilled in me, being in church, kind of some of the things that I talked about early on episodes and back in season 1, how, having purpose, prayer, and all those different things, is, very important, because when you go through life, you go through different challenges.
Sure.
Those are the things that you lean on in those very moments.
Sure.
I kind of just want to jump really deep into your story. And if you hear noise, please excuse the noise. I want to kind of jump deep on into your story. After you growing up in Southern Indiana, we talked about how at the age of 49, I'm close.
Yeah.
That, your life really started to make a big impact on you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Take me down that road. What was it like?
Sure. At age 49, I had suffered a series of heart attacks. And, you hear of people having heart attacks, but you always hear about when they're older, when they're 70, 60, 70, or they have lifestyles that are conducive to that, smoking, obesity, comorbidities. Never in a million years would I have expected that I would be certainly be here talking to anyone about surviving a number of heart attacks, and even putting the dots together of what led up to that. You'd mentioned, or part of that discussion would certainly be undiagnosed sleep apnea that probably dated back decades. My sleep was interrupted 87 times an hour, and my blood oxygen levels would dip down to 67% at night, which has a severe impact on your health and ultimately your heart, which is partially the theory as to why I've been afflicted with these issues.
I kind of want to flash there, but I want to take you back for a second.
Sure.
Back you said in 1993, you worked for a commercial company.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. A composites company.
A composite company. My apologies. I want to know, what was it like for you to work in that space and maneuver through and actually begin to start building websites?
Sure. Actually, I started building websites. My first commercial website was in 1993. Graduated high school, went to college, but I was working part-time. I was actually working 3 12-hour shifts at a manufacturing plant on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I was actually a shift foreman. And one day the boss approached me knowing that I had worked with websites and invited me to work in the office as an alternative, knowing that I was going to school. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And we started marketing the company, built the website, marketed the company, was able to grow the company by about 300% in 18 months. So as somebody at a very young age, that just completely set my mind on fire as far as what the possibilities were to be able to, be a young 19-year-old kid, but contributing to this company's growth and success. It laid the groundwork for my career up until this day.
Did you know that in that time of your life that you was meant to do bigger things and go to different places and kind of grow their company at that given time?
I had no idea how fast the success would be, because at that point, the internet was still referred to as that internet. People spoke of it like it was just a fad, which is just mind-blowing to me. Even at that age, I knew that, someone said something to me very profound at a very young age. They said, the internet will have as much impact on mankind as the printing press. And at the time, being a young kid, I kind of took it for granted. But in retrospect, it certainly has, if not more impact, or profound of an impact in the printing press.
How did it feel like kind of growing a company to 300%? Like, what is that like? What is that feeling after the nights and grinding and trying to get it to where you wanted to go? What is that feeling like?
It was wild to think that I was just a young kid. Everyone was older than me. Matter of fact, no, actually only one person I worked with was close to my age. It was interesting. It was very much a source of pride, to be proud of the work. Because a lot of time many times people work their entire lives and never see the efforts of their labor. This is a unique situation where I immediately was able to see what the fruit of my labors were and how it impacted the company and ultimately how it affected my career. it became very much a source of pride, and being the youngest one in a troop of individuals that were all very hardworking. Very proud, very proud.
Do you think in that time of your life that you were hungry for something? So like now in the age where I am, like I feel like I'm just on a mission to get to where I'm trying to go.
Sure.
And like I feel like nothing around me is gonna stop me to get to where I'm trying to go. At that age, do you feel like you was hungry for something to try to
Oh, we were
prove and
hungry.
show who you were?
We were hungry. There was I had a coworker that worked with me that was about my age, and because we were the youngest, we were the ones tasked with visiting client sites and going to trade shows, and we were both very hungry. We both felt like, at least in this domain, in this space, that we would very much conquer our niche of the industry, and in a lot of ways that we actually did. So yeah, it was great.
So in this season of your life, you grow a company from 300%, but then you decided to take another turn,
Sure.
and you grow another company. What is it like, kind of going through to different companies or growing? Is that like the mindset that you have and
Yeah.
helping people get to where they're going, or what is that like?
Sure. So I was there for about 5 years, and manufacturing was very much new to me. But marketing was where my fascination was. It was the marketing. It was to be able to know that you could take a small business or an obscure business and be on a level playing ground with massive corporations. And there was a company located in southern Indiana that the name is Graylu Marketing Group. And they were just this small little boutique web development marketing company, but their clients were well known within their industry of the shooting sports, the firearms, outdoor sports, sporting goods. And they offered me a position, and this was pre 9/11. They offered me a position, and it allowed me to envision what the next step would be. Now I would be working with marketing of larger companies, much bigger than where I was from. The projects were certainly more varied. It was a very exciting time. Still a young guy in my early 20s, and now I'm working for a nationally known marketing company whose core business is web development, internet web development, along with conventional marketing. So
When you talk about marketing, what sets you apart? So like whenever I'm sitting down, I'm able to sometimes sit down with people and hear different conversations and
Sure.
kind of pick different things out to be able to, draw different things. Whenever you are talking about marketing, how are you able to see a business and be like, this is the one I can grow and take it off?
So that's a very interesting question. A lot of times I'm not looking so much at the company as I am looking at their competitors. It's very much, there's a couple things I learned at a really, really young age that are lessons that I still carry with me today. And that, the company itself doesn't define its identity so much as its competitors and the landscape in which it lives. So when you start evaluating people's marketing, just as much as you want to look at the company, you want to look at the landscape. The other thing that I learned at a really young age, which I think that I value more and more as I get older, is that marketing is a lot about what you don't say. I think that a lot of people push for marketing. They get all these messages that aren't as refined or as strategic as they could be, and then they find themselves participating in marketing just for the sake of marketing, or to say that they're marketing. And the reality is sometimes it's good to step back, regain your focus, don't say stupid things, don't position yourself in a foolish way, evaluate the landscape, and from there, draw your plans.
What do you think at that young age? Do you think you were sacrificing anything, kind of giving up for all of this different success at this given age?
Yeah, I did. I gave up a lot of time with my family and friends, and I still think about that a lot now, even to this day. As you get older, your priorities change, your values change. And I worked a lot. There's a lot of 60, 70 hour, 80 hour weeks. There's a lot of in catalog season, I later on worked for a company, and it was not uncommon to only take one day off a week. Some days, no days off a week, from November, well, pretty much from Thanksgiving all the way until Valentine's Day, which, other than Christmas and a couple of choice holidays in there, certainly in retrospect, I spent a lot of time working for people when probably should have spent that time with friends and family.
But if it's okay to challenge it, I think like even now, like I'm in a space where, I'm not spending much time with my family because I'm grinding, I'm trying to build something, I'm trying to get to where I am. I think sometimes that, if you do spend time with your family, do you get the opportunity to create the life you have? Do you get the opportunity to kind of go on some of those trips? So it's like,
I think the most successful people are the people who can balance the two effectively. And that's the great divide. That's in my opinion now, that's the difference between being just successful and being wholly successful. And that I couldn't balance it very well. I should have done a better job. I could have done a better job. It's something that I definitely took for granted. That said, the real success is balance, which I think I'm closer to that now, but certainly back in those days, no balance whatsoever.
I want to kind of talk about the balance. Like, how are you able now to try and know what's the difference between balance back then and balance now?
Balance now means being more effective. So the time that you are spending, you're achieving the same amount, but you're doing it with a shorter amount of time because you're a more effective person. You have the experiences that you draw upon to guide you in your decisions as you get older and move forward and maturing. I'm 51 now. There's so much knowledge that I have at 51 that I wish I would have had in my 20s. Yeah. I would have been so much more of an effective person. Not so much effective to the benefit of my employers or to my own business, but to be able to balance things, to balance a work-life balance that would be more effective and certainly healthier. No. There's a lot of my issues when it comes to, to anybody who has heart issues, hypertension and stress is a major factor in that. And I'm certain that probably contributed later on in life to my issues that I have now.
You're the second person that I heard say that a lot of times when you're young, you put in so much different sacrifices, but you may not see the reaps of the sacrifices, but later on you kind of reap those health sacrifices, which makes me a little nervous because at night sometimes I lose a lot of sleepless nights, kind of thinking, creative, trying to
ruminating.
Trying to figure out how to build something or to take it somewhere, but it's like oftentimes it's like I don't know how to cut my brain off to ready to go to sleep sometimes.
I completely understand. I gave up a lot of hobbies that I loved in my 20s and even in my 30s, oftentimes revisiting them as I was able to create that life balance. But speaking of sleep specifically, I took for granted, you always hear about how important sleep is. But I would say the real importance of sleep is not just your ability to feel rested, but how it affects your mind. I went for probably over a decade without effective sleep. For a decade, I don't even remember dreams.
Wow.
And I didn't know that was abnormal. My brain was never able to go into REM sleep, just because of the effects of sleep apnea. I would say that, for as important as sleep is, you achieve more when you're rested. So the time that you're giving up thinking and not being able to sleep because you're churning and you're burning and you're thinking, if you could somehow manifest that better whenever you're truly awake and being productive to get that rest, I think that it's definitely more beneficial.
I kind of want to go into it like how you just talked about it. I kind of want to go, when did you start knowing that you had sleep apnea? Like how was that a part of starting to become your everyday life? Because when you talk about success, you're winning in so many different categories, going from business to business, growing different businesses. When did you start to notice that it began to start turning for you?
Sure. Well, actually I didn't. I didn't know I had apnea until I had several different health issues that couldn't really be solved effectively. I had a back surgery that was from a mechanical injury, and they did the surgery, and it was a laminectomy and a microdiscectomy. And typically people heal from that pretty effectively and pretty easily. And I noticed that I was not healing from it at all, and things were actually just getting worse. And actually moved to a different state. I had given up on most doctors that I'd had, and I moved to Iowa because I was paying for my insurance out of pocket through the ACA, Obamacare. I had researched to find out where essentially the best care you could get for the money.
Yeah.
And it led me to Iowa. So I moved to Iowa, and they had done several things that had made some progress to make me feel better, but things just still weren't progressing like they should. And finally, one day, after being there for almost a year, one of the old-time doctors, they're an older doctor, a more senior doctor within the clinic I was at, had actually come up to me and said, we're trying all these things, we're still having some issues. And he said, let me ask you something. He said, if you were to ever take a ride in the back seat of a car as a passenger, how long would it take you before you fell asleep? And I've ridden in the back of cars, and it usually takes me about 5 minutes to fall asleep.
Wow.
I said, it'd take about 5 minutes. He said, you're getting a sleep study. And within a week or two, I was in a sleep lab getting a sleep study, and they had hooked up, all the 30, 40, 50 wires to your head. You're sleeping in a hospital environment, and all of a sudden I doze off, and I'm woken up 2 hours later by a staff of folks coming in and fitting with me with a mask, and they couldn't believe how severe my apnea was. And to one doctor's, couldn't believe I was alive, that I was actually surviving with that little bit of oxygen that I was actually living on, being a oxygen level around 67.
So during that time of your life, when the doctors come in and, they're telling you that you could almost die, you're not going to die in this place.
Sure.
Like, what is mentally going through your mind?
The first thing is, wow, this explains so much. All the dots start coming together, all the things that first of all, tired all the time, feeling completely drained, brain fog. It's hard to even communicate it effectively, how disjointed and dissociated you feel from your life because you're not sleeping. So what really happens is, oh wow, this makes so much sense. I'm not healing because I'm not resting. I'm tired because I'm not sleeping. I'm not recovering. The day-to-day recovery that people get a chance to do every single night for 8, 10, 12 hours, I haven't been doing that for decades. And immediately things started getting better as far as how I was feeling from previous surgery. It was very much eye-opening. It was very much feeling reborn or rebirth.
Do you think that when you started to get the right sleep and your life began to start changing, that you seen even better results in the work that you did at work?
There's no question. Within 3 days.
Wow.
And this had been going on for well over a decade. First of all, if you have apnea and you wear a device like a CPAP or a BiPAP machine, it takes a while to get used to. It's not an easy thing to get used to. So your first night, it's kind of hit and miss. Your second night, you're trying to be patient. You're trying to learn to navigate resting with this scuba mask on your face, pumping pressurized air into your face. And then on your third night, it all just kind of falls into place. And then it's like, for the first time, you feel like, oh my gosh, you wake up the next day, you're like, I can't believe I haven't felt like this in literally a decade. It changes every aspect of your life. The only way you can really describe it easily is that's the difference between watching black and white television your entire life in mono stereo, or, mono, to now seeing everything in Technicolor and full, stereo. It's the difference of night and day.
So when the doctor said that, for every night that you go to sleep, correct me if I'm wrong, for every night that you go to sleep, you could almost die.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. People die, 30 to 50,000 people die every year from apnea, just in the United States alone. If you ever hear of somebody passing in their sleep, not that every single person who passes in their sleep is dying of apnea, but that's a huge, huge factor. The other factor that isn't directly attributed to are the health issues that affect your life. So, somebody who may pass away from cardiac arrest, the underlying source might actually have been sleep apnea itself.
Wow. Did you ever get nervous to ever start going to sleep where they said like you almost close to dying in your sleep every single time?
Oh, no. Not after I got fitted with a what's called a BiPAP machine. Once I understood, now I sleep no problem at all. I sleep 10 hours every night. I dream every night. Once I got the mask on, which was immediate from whenever I actually did the lab. I felt at ease. I felt very much at ease.
So whenever you did find out it was sleep apnea, but there was a season where you couldn't figure out what exactly it was.
Oh, yeah.
What was that season like before you even knew that it was sleep
So,
apnea?
well, I mean, one of the biggest, biggest effects or symptoms of sleep apnea is actually depression. You go through a depression that's hard to describe to anybody who's never been through it. But, imagine not sleeping ever. You never catch up. You never feel rested. Depression and suicide when it comes to apnea is a huge, huge issue. I would say I think I read once that 60 or 70% of people who suffer from apnea also suffer from clinical depression. And I went to therapists. I was trying to figure out what was going on. I think I went to 3 different therapists, maybe 4, 3 for sure. One of them fired me as a patient because she said that my issues were above her pay grade. And she actually fired me as a patient because we weren't getting anywhere with anything. I have all these things in my life, seemingly great life, but yet there's this overreaching depression that really can't be explained. And it's because nobody knew. Nobody knew I had apnea. Nobody knew I wasn't sleeping. I didn't know. The therapist didn't know. It was a complete mystery.
Then what was it like?
And it does make you suicidal.
Wow. And what was it like kind of going into therapy and a person that has gone to school to try to help you with your problems, not even help you be able to
It's very
discover
frustrating and expensive. It's very frustrating. It's very expensive. You're paying money for somebody to tell you that they don't understand why you're depressed. And of course, they don't know. It really, in retrospect, in my opinion, anytime somebody's feeling any kind of certain way, they should really ask one of the first questions that should come out of somebody's mouth is, how well do you sleep? How do you do? How do you rest? Are you able to sleep? When you sleep, do you feel refreshed when you wake up?
When you talk about your season of depression, how severe was your depression during that time of your life?
No, I was absolutely suicidal. Absolutely suicidal. The only reason why I didn't commit suicide is that I had lost a good friend. Actually, I lost my best friend to suicide in my mid-20s. And I saw the impact that it had on his family and his friends and within his universe. And I could not bring myself to do that to my friends and family. That's the only reason why I didn't commit suicide.
And during that time of your life, I know you just kind of just stated that, that's the only reason why you couldn't do it. But when you talk about close, if you're open to sharing, how close were you?
Oh, I planned it a couple times.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you planned it, you just knew that before, you kind of thought about everything, you kind of just knew that it was.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I time, location, and method. Yeah, ideation, suicidal ideation with apnea is very common. Your life has very little value.
So how did you bring yourself out of that depression to get to where you was trying to go next in life?
So that's interesting. I don't know. There was just something. There had to be something. There just had to be an answer. I knew that other people didn't live the way that I did, and I knew, and I had prayed about it. I had lots of conversations with God. One day, I'd already had second and third opinions from various medical professionals, various therapists, but I knew that there just had to be an explanation. And I just made the decision one day. I was very fortunate that financially I could make the move to get to an area where healthcare maybe was, whether it was different or better or whatever, it was a different set of eyes and ears and brains working on my issues. I just woke up one day and thought, I don't need to commit suicide. I just need to find, the answer.
And where did you end up going to be able to find those answers?
Well, I went to Iowa and dealt with those doctors, and that's whenever they had dealt with some other underlying issues. But then ultimately, they discovered the sleep apnea. Once I went through that, I stayed in Iowa for another probably 6 months, and my lease was up. The doctors had pretty much said, "We've done everything we can do. Everything is great now. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do?" we've achieved all that we can achieve. Now it's whether or not I want to stay in Iowa. And Iowa is very, very cold. And one of the issues I have is that I'm very sensitive to hot and cold. And I don't know if that's a product of the apnea or some of the underlying arthritic issues that come along with apnea. Apnea, a lot of people don't realize when you have sleep apnea, you can it'll make you sore from head to toe. I couldn't even turn my arms. I couldn't hardly even turn my arms. I was so stiff and so sore and so tired. But Iowa brings a level of cold that's just hard to understand. And so I didn't know if I wanted to move back to Indiana. I had family down in the Carolinas. I think I mentioned that, and I don't want to jump too far ahead.
No, you're okay. You're okay.
But I did some soul searching and some research, and I came to visit my brother who lives in Union County outside of Charlotte, and decided this is a great area to live and to make a fresh start.
And when you decided to really come down here and make a fresh start, do you think now that you discovered sleep apnea, life is getting better for you?
Sure.
And this time, if I'm not mistaken, you end up also taking a job down in South Carolina where you became president, right?
Sure. Well, actually, the employer that I work for is in Southern Indiana, and his father owned the company, a different company that is the one I had worked for and had grown by such a significant amount at such a young age. His son had also got into the business and started his own company doing the same thing. And I was named as president of business development for that company. Composites is a very big business in the Carolinas. So it was a natural fit for me to work in composites, even though it's an Indiana-based company, for me to be located here in the Carolinas.
And before you got to Carolina, I know we talked about earlier that you kind of went from Iowa to Miami. That was kind of like your reset moment, and then, trying to figure out barbecue. Tell us.
Sure. So before landing in the Carolinas, I was contemplating whether or not I was going to work for someone else or I was going to work for myself. And over the course of living in Iowa, I've taken Iowa's a pork capital of the country. There's actually more pigs than humans in the state of Iowa. A lot of people don't know that.
Wow.
And by a big factor, like by 4 to 1.
Wow.
And so whenever I was in Iowa, I had enjoyed some great smoked pork, and I had actually bought a smoker. And my father and I had always smoked meat growing up as a kid, but I kind of got away from it. But then moving to Iowa, I had bought a smoker, and I'd started experimenting and kind of reliving my youth as far as smoking beef and pork. And I had thought for a brief moment that I might consider opening up a barbecue restaurant. So, one of the things that you always want to do in a business environment is to see how good you are. And the only way you can really do that is if you go and you sample everybody else's barbecue to see if you can hang, so to speak. And so for a good 8 months. I traveled through various parts of the U.S., specifically the Southeast, and had probably eaten at maybe 35, 40 different barbecue restaurants to see how mine stacked up with theirs. Ultimately, I decided against it because of the risk associated with opening a restaurant. But there was a brief time now I just make pork for my wife and for myself and for family. But for a brief moment in time, I seriously considered opening up a barbecue place on Ocean Drive in Miami. But the risk and the overhead is just so much I couldn't stomach it.
How was it moving to Columbia, South Carolina? How was it moving to South Carolina to, this is the first start? You out of Iowa, you out of the cold,
Sure.
South Carolina?
Well, I came down and hung out with my brother, visited with family for about a week, and then I headed to Miami and some various places in Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi for barbecue. And I was talking to my brother about it, and kind of just gauging what he thought. And he said, well, if you want to move down here, just stay with us until you get established and figure out what you want to do. And within a week of moving down here, I met a gal online, and we instantly connected. We closed down a restaurant on our first date, and we've been nearly inseparable ever since. I would say completely inseparable, really. And so once I got down here, it was great. I figured out where I wanted to live and met a fantastic now wife, and things have been going great since then.
Do you think from moving from Iowa to getting to South Carolina, it was all meant to be? That was all
I
in
do.
all in the
I
part
do
of the
think
plan?
it was meant to be. People talk about how God has a plan, and this will make more sense even as I come down through the story of how things progress. But people say it, you kind of take for granted how common of a cliche it is. But then when you really start to see when you're happy, you really can stitch together, well, yeah, God has a plan. And people have said that to me. I've always heard that. I've heard that from being knee-high to a cricket.
Yeah.
God has a plan for you. God has a plan for everybody. And if something's not going the way you think, to have faith that God has a plan. But you really start to truly understand the impact of that statement whenever you survive the things that I've survived.
I wanna kind of go into a space where, even in you finding out that God has a plan, there was a lot of uncertainty where, your father was in his final days and cancer ended up
Sure.
happening. What was that like happening when, you meet a beautiful
Sure.
woman and, your father is
Yeah.
also going through that space too?
So, the thing about whenever you lose a parent, first of all, it's hard to lose a parent, period. But a lot of things about losing a parent too are how it happens. And it certainly can shake your faith whenever you see suffering. And pancreatic cancer is a horrible way to go. You watch somebody, my father was always an icon to me. Big guy, over 6 foot, 225 pounds, big biceps, never worked out a day in his life, but he was a strong, powerful guy. He was a smart man. Growing up, there was never an appliance in our home where they called a repair person. He repaired it on his own, and that was not his business. So everything that he did, I was always a shadow to him. And so to grow up that way with him, but now to see him become, essentially a shell of themselves because of how cancer overtakes the body and subsequent chemotherapy and radiation and everything that they do to try to bring some longevity to someone's life. It shakes you. It shakes your faith. If God has a plan for everybody, is this, what kind of plan is this?
Yeah, for sure.
And so for as much as I was gaining in my positive outlook of life and the importance of spirituality and faith in God, at that very same moment, I'm also now being very much tested.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's very, very tough. I think that the salvation of your thought becomes that there's an end to the suffering and the afterlife, for which many people believe.
Yeah.
And so it definitely tests you, but certainly you understand that there's something else going on as well.
How do you think losing a parent shaped your outlook on life? Do you feel like it made you give a different outlook on life?
It certainly gives you a different outlook on life. It certainly gives you a taste of mortality that cannot be conveyed in any other way. When you lose when you lose anybody in your life, it does that. But when you lose a parent, it's a milestone. It becomes a milestone of, okay, well, now your parents are passed away, whether it's one or both. And certainly, it certainly narrows your focus as to what's important in life, because now you're losing some of the most important people in your life.
Did that season of life mentally slow you down?
It did not slow me down, but it certainly made me value life and health. Now, my father didn't he wasn't an unhealthy person, but he also, different generation, never exercised, but certainly wasn't obese. He did smoke for a good portion of his life. And he worked around a lot of chemicals that certainly are not good for you to work around. Not that any one singular thing had contributed to his health issues, but certainly the culmination, I'm sure, did. It definitely makes you very sensitive as to how you live your life, whether it's your levels of activity, maintaining a healthy weight, maintaining healthy sleep. It definitely makes you more focused.
My name is Eric, and I'd like to welcome you to Vibes Coffee. We pride ourselves on fresh coffee and excellent customer service, but we are much more than that. Whether you want to hang with a few friends, get some work done, or experience the best brew downtown Columbia has to offer, visit us at 622 Canal Side Street. Come for the coffee, stay for the vibes.
Sleep apnea during the time of your father passed, did it flash at you at any given time where, your sleep started to go back to altering the old ways?
At that point, I had already been treated for apnea, so I was I took, when you have bad sleep apnea, the device they give you travels everywhere with you. And so actually I would come back and forth between Iowa and home to visit and take care of them. I would go to Iowa for a couple weeks and then I'd come back for a couple weeks. And my most faithful partner was my BiPAP machine. So at that point, I'm still relishing in the fact that now I'm getting rest and sleep like I never had before. But at the same time, some of the most difficult times of your life are also occurring with you watching your parents wither away.
I kind of want to go back into, you meeting Vivian and like you all are off in the seas and life is going well, but then your father dies, but then a pain actually begins to start coming back.
My father passed away prior to me meeting Vivian, so she never got a chance to meet my father. But there's a bittersweetness because I know that she and my father would have gotten along really, really well. They have very much the same sense of humor. They both have a very down-home spirit that I think that would allow them to connect, and certainly they would have me to connect over as well. I'm sure there'd be some fun ribbing and kidding around at my expense. But there is a sadness in a season, as you say, post-death, where it's not that you don't feel defeated per se, because at the end of the day, he was still in his 70s. That's when things really start to happen to folks. Vivian and my life is now starting to take shape and to take hold. We're very much inseparable. And that leads into the next chapter of, we were together for probably a year. Is that right? We were together for a year before heart issues. Yeah, about a year. So I had moved down here. I had taken a job. Things are going great. I'm traveling a lot for my job. She's a career-minded individual herself. We wind up living together, and things are great. Things are fantastic. I saw a very bright future. I knew it very early within our relationship that there was possibility for marriage. I was very confident in that if things had continued at that trajectory. And then, might serve as a segue as to what happened next with mysterious health issues. I had noticed that I had been having pain within my shoulder, in my right shoulder. And she's actually, her prior career path was in occupational therapy. So she was very sympathetic to and understanding as to, hey, these are things that are going on and how much pain and difficulty it was causing in my life. She was with me for every doctor's visit. She was very caring, and actually her father as well as a physician. So I always had this circle of physicians around me to help make sure that I understood what was going on. And things were going great, and this persistent and increasing pain was starting to form on my right side. And we'd gone to a couple doctors, and actually I had felt that pain slightly right as I left Iowa. And one of the last things I did before leaving Iowa was to have an x-ray to see if there was anything going on. I thought maybe I had an impinged nerve or something. And I had other spine and I had stenosis. So they thought maybe there was an impinged nerve that was running out of my neck and into my shoulder and my arm. And this had progressively gotten worse. And I had gone to one of the bigger orthopedic care facilities in the region. It's a very well-known one, and they had actually diagnosed me as having impinged nerve in my neck. and it was affecting my right side, and it was affecting all the way down to my fingertips. And I had various x-rays and testing, and they had actually come up with a plan to move one of the nerves in my arm and do various procedures to help alleviate it. And I still wasn't convinced that's what it was, because my right arm always felt colder than my left arm, to the point where it was significant and severe. And I remember telling the physiologist that I think it's something vascular. And she said, no, it's this impinged nerve. And I said, well, my right arm feels significantly colder than my left arm. And she said that would be a symptom of that. And at this same time, I'm noticing some additional pain. The pain is increasing. I was told it was an impinged nerve. I had actually, at that point, survived a couple heart attacks and hadn't even known it yet.
Wow.
One of them was at an Anytime Fitness at about 5 a.m. I was walking, and I just felt this really, really sharp pain through the right side. Of course, at that time, I didn't know. And I wound up just feeling bad. I don't even think I mentioned it to my, at that time, girlfriend. And I went ahead and just worked for the rest of the day. And a couple weeks later, I was walking with Vivian, my girlfriend, and that same episode had happened again. And in retrospect, we learned that that was actually a heart attack. So not to get too far fast forward into the story, but we had some additional imaging done where basically I was demanded to have a, I believe it was a CAT scan. And they had done a CAT scan. And prior to that, though, I had taken a meat thermometer and I put it in my right hand. And then I put it in my left hand, and it was every bit of 3 to 4 degrees colder.
Wow.
And so I just knew it was something vascular. So he did a CAT scan, and it said the readings and everything, and nothing major was discovered. And at the very last line, in this multi-page medical jargon document that nobody can navigate, it said, ancillary finding, severe coronary calcification. Mm-hmm. And I was completely floored by it. My dad had some heart issues, but not severe. My grandfather had some pretty severe heart issues. And my grandmother on my father's side had some pretty severe heart issues. But I didn't smoke, and I didn't have high blood pressure, and my cholesterol was actually quite low. And so everybody completely missed it. They had been so focused on this being an impinged nerve that there was nobody looking at my heart. And come to find out, I had actually suffered multiple heart attacks. They think a minimum of 4, and actually probably 6. 4 of them I didn't even know I had. They were the silent in-STEMI type, and then 2 of them were very real that I absolutely felt, but I had discounted to be an impinged nerve in my neck, and that was an actual heart attack because none of the symptoms were there. In a man, usually it's their left side. For me, it was my right side. It was slowly progressing. Didn't have high blood pressure, didn't have high cholesterol, didn't have a rapid heart rate, didn't show any of the symptoms or signs. But in retrospect, it was heart attacks.
Well, what did it feel like to the doctors didn't know what you was going on until you, like, if you don't read the bottom of that paper, still to this day, you probably don't know.
Most people don't read the bottom. That's the interesting thing about it. I don't know that I really read anything up until that point, and just out of the blue, I read through this document convinced that there was something going on, so that perpetuated me to read it very thoroughly. But yeah, completely floored by it. Within, of course, I was sitting there thinking, I knew it. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what it was. Within a week of that, I think I was scheduled for a heart cath. So the results were brought in. They referred me immediately to Navant to a heart cath. They went in through my groin, came up through an artery, scoped everything with dye, and ultimately at that point found multiple blockages, some of them 100%, some of them 90%, some of them 65%.
Wow. And we talked about earlier a diagram. Take me through the diagram. If you can remember visually, a diagram of your heart.
So I think you might flash it on the screen. Sure. So I have triple vessel disease, which means the 3 different arteries that surround the heart and support the heart. I have blockages in all 3 of them. At one point towards one of, and I don't know the names of all of them, I apologize, but I have 100% blockage in one area, 95% in another area, 65% in another, and some very large lesions that were all formed as what would be called triple vessel disease, affecting all 3 arteries around the heart. And with that, in addition to that, ischemia from dead tissue from the heart actually not being supplied with blood.
What was it like to learn, or what was it like to feel in that moment that you had survived multiple heart attacks without even knowing?
It is, without saying, it's a mind bender. It's, you're 49 years old. You don't have any of the telltale signs. Everybody was completely surprised, as I was, completely floored by it. It's surreal. It's like you're in a movie. It's like you hear these things, but you can't. It's not that you have disassociation, but it's hard to link these two together, because other than a slight breathlessness and the actual physical pain from it, I felt completely normal.
Wow.
I was walking 3 to 5 miles every morning, like religion. I mean, every single day, because it helped my back. It kept weight off, which kept my back and my hips feeling good. There's a lot of benefits to walking whenever it comes to your mental health.
Yeah.
You can kind of, if you do it early in the morning, you can plan your day. There's a lot of health benefits to walking, far beyond just physical. If you do it at night, there's a lot of benefits because you can unpack your day. It prepares you for sleep. There's just a lot of great benefits from walking. So I had this seemingly healthy lifestyle. Now I'm told that not only have you had a heart attack, but it's as bad as you could possibly imagine.
Wow.
So it was actually, even to this day, I still don't believe it sometimes.
So,
it's unbelievable to you when it happens.
Yes. No, literally. I gotta take you back, Martin. I'm gonna flash it real fast.
Sure.
Right? You talk about, growing up in Indiana, right? Being a little boy growing up in that space, and as you're maneuvering through, work is good. You're going from company to different company. You're boosting these companies to get to where they're going, and then you're in a space where now you go to Iowa. You recognize you got sleep apnea, and you're trying to figure your life, and your life is back on track. Everything is going great. Everything in your life is back to where it is. Okay, we fix sleep apnea. The money's good. Life is good. But then you go down to Miami. Getting ready to start trying to figure out how to cook barbecue and those things, and trying to figure that life out. But then you decide to move to South Carolina, right? Your father died, but then you meet Vivian, and life is good now. Your life is literally back on track for you.
I'm in the shift.
Literally, you're in the middle of the shift.
That's right.
And then you find out, after life got back on track for you, that you had at least 6 heart attacks.
Yep.
Do you ever mentally go back to that space of depression? Or how did Vivian make it a factor in your life to continue to keep you going?
So there's some really interesting concepts. I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day. The fact that I didn't know that I was having heart attacks is actually probably what saved my life. Because when people have a heart attack and they know it's a heart attack, you can think yourself into a heart attack. I've had multiple cardiologists tell me this, that you can, there's a stress factor and a stress component and a hypertension aspect of it that, if you have a heart attack and it's a heart attack, you can actually make that heart attack significantly worse. My ignorance was bliss. My ignorance that it was a heart attack or not a heart attack, not knowing that it was a heart attack, actually is probably what saved my life.
Wow.
And so from that factor, the ignorance of not knowing that I had a heart attack is probably what saved my life, for one. But in retrospect, as you speak, or as you ask, looking back, it floors me how simple my life was. And certainly how positive I was. But as far as depression, I had already suffered so much for so long that I was not going to let this define me. And certainly my family, both my immediate family, her family, and Vivian, her father is a lifetime physician.
Yeah.
And of course, whenever you're getting this diagnosis, it shakes you. But between the cardiologist, who's Dr. Theravolt, Dr. T, as he's known at Navant, and her being a physician, and actually my oldest brother being a physician as well, all three of them were very comforting to me. Dr. T told me that I easily have 20 to 30 years still left of life. Her father had told me that you're going to be fine. And then my oldest brother always being able to help translate what all this paperwork and what all these things mean in real English that I could understand. I never really once felt down. I always had felt like I had conquered so much that this wasn't going to be what defined me from a person moving forward. So depression never really entered. Now that said, the medications can put you in a depressive state. But besides from that, depression never entered my mind.
Did you ever, for 1 second, after finding out all of this information, ask yourself, or when you looked in the mirror in the morning, like, why me?
No, I didn't. I had so many people in my life that had said how lucky and fortunate I was to be alive, and countless healthcare professionals tell me that God has a plan for me, that you can't be convinced of anything otherwise. Yeah. Whenever at that point, you believe it, but whenever that happens, you absolutely believe it by the grace of God that you're still alive. There's nothing, I was admitted to the hospital 5 days before my actual scheduled surgery date because I was at such risk for dying that they basically brought me in 5 days early, pumped me full heparin, I think it's called heparin, to keep my blood from clotting, just to make it to surgery day for the bypasses. And then everyone telling me how fortunate I am or how lucky I am to be alive, and immediately followed by God has a plan for you. And these are people I've never met before, people that I had only met one time. Every single one of them said, God has a plan for you. And after you hear it and after you've survived it, you absolutely believe it.
How do you know? This can be a stupid question, but how do you know after all that you went through, you surviving 6 heart attacks, you figuring out you had sleep apnea, how do you know and believe that God actually has a plan for you?
Sure. So that's an interesting question. First off, whenever I was in the hospital, or actually the evening that I was admitted to the hospital, which was at 2:00 in the morning following chest pains, I was at ease. You completely submit yourself to what you feel is God's plan. And if God's plan is that you're going to die that day, that night, within a couple days or whatever, you surrender yourself and you submit to God that it's out of your hands, it's out of your control. And never in my life have I ever felt like I was not in control of my living situation, my station in life, my place in life, my relationship. I always felt like I had a hand at that. Well, there's a point when you're not.
Yes.
And that's whenever you truly, really, you submit and you feel and you believe because you know that there is no other way. Yeah. And so at that point, when you surrender yourself, you're at ease, you're calm. And I had surrendered myself to just go. And I knew that if that was the plan, that was the plan. If it meant that I survived and a month later I passed away, that was the plan. That's what it means to have faith. And I grew up as a person of faith.
Oh,
It's until you live it, it's hard for me to even describe it or explain it. But that's the level of faith you have to have.
I want to be careful how I ask you this question. Lead me a different way if you would like. When you was laying in the hospital room. I know oftentimes whenever you get admitted to the hospital, they tell you to change out your clothes, put on a gown, you lay down in the bed. Take me through that moment when you took off your clothes and you had to literally get yourself ready to go rolled into, the room where you have surgery. Like, what was that moment like? And
It was peaceful. It was calm. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't uptight about any of it. I had complete and total faith that, the doctor had come in and said a prayer with me. I had been saying a lot of prayers to myself. I knew that I had a lot of great people on my team. I knew I had a great staff of surgeons. My doctor came in, said a prayer. I said a prayer. I think I said a prayer to guide, for God to guide him. I felt like God was with me every moment of it. I was not scared at all, and I was ready to go and just get it over with and be on the other side of it.
after surviving something like that, what gets built inside of you as a man?
Sure. So what you feel like you can accomplish really changes. You live with, even if you felt like you lived with purpose before, you really start to live with purpose at that point. Because now trivial things become less trivial. Your patience changes. Both the grace that you extend to others changes, and the grace that you hope is bestowed upon you increases. And what I think that it does is it gives you clarity that that's really hard to replicate. But it gives you purpose, whether that purpose is probably for your own good or for the good of your family, or if it's the good of your individual community. You definitely feel purpose, and you want to live in a way that has meaning, is profound, and you find happiness in very, very small things.
I have a picture in my head of you as a kid winning those business deals.
Oh, yeah, it was wild.
Winning those business deals and you accomplishing those business deals. What is it like now to know that you have overcame everything that you've been through now? How was that type of excitement
How does it
compare to when you was younger?
It's meaningless. It really is. That's what's funny. Nobody tells you that you have a great reset, but you kind of do, or certainly a shift. Nothing else. There's nothing else in my life that I feel like has happened. It's almost like the difference between BC and AD. There's everything in your life before something like this happens, and there's everything after. Most everything that happened before, it's not trivial, but it doesn't carry the same weight that now when you live with the level of purpose that you have now, things are much more important, more profound. They bring you more joy. They bring you more happiness. You see things and value things that you may have taken for granted, certainly before. It's the difference between BC and AD in your own way. It makes those things seem pointless and trivial.
I want to go back to a comment we talked about earlier.
Sure.
Through the phone. You said after surgery you wanted to do life differently. What does different mean to you now?
Living with purpose, being a better person, being a better person, being a better brother, better son, a better husband. Whenever I say that it impacts every fiber of your being, I'm not understating it at all. I don't know how anybody could live their life and have these things happen to them and not come out a completely changed person. I just don't understand how they could. It affects every molecule in your body. And to live with purpose, to live with meaning, to be a better person, to be a contributor to society in a way that maybe you weren't before.
Yeah. What excites you about life right now? Like what is the most exciting thing now that you have overcome that and life is, I'm assuming
Sure.
that it's good and everything is smooth. What takes you to another level in life now?
Well, we're celebrating our marriage Saturday, actually.
Saturday, yeah.
So Saturday is a big day for me. We actually are bought land and building a farm, and hope to actually start a farm, a productive farm, an intensive farm to grow vegetables, to enrich the lives of others, to enrich our lives with community and with purpose. And my favorite thing to do and my most relaxing thing to do, and this certainly contributes to a healthy heart, is to participate in things that bring you peace. And certainly a garden and gardening and having a small farm in a quiet place in the country certainly helps that significantly. But there's a lot of exciting things. I don't think there's a single part of my life right now that's not under a dynamic transition, with marriage. Career prospects are great. I'm with my family here in the Carolinas. New marriage, farm, everything's fantastic.
If you had to sum up your life in one word,
Yeah.
how would you sum it up?
Lucky. Very lucky. That's 2 words, but I can't understand.
Yeah.
I can't, it's funny. We've already gotten started with building the farm, and it took us a while to come up with what would be a good name for the farm. And, my wife, God rest her soul, she has a thing for strays.
Yeah.
She had an adopted cat. She adopted a rescue dog. She adopted a rescue horse. So she adopted me. She got married very late in life compared to most. I am now getting married at age 51. It took us a while to come up with a name, but we actually came up with the name of our farm is Long Shot Farm.
Wow.
And everything has been a long shot to get us here to this point. So social media, Long Shot Farm.
Look. Oh, we get ready to talk about long shot, but I got one question for you. Do you ever think the pain inside of you, of everything that you've been through, revealed to who you were as a person?
Absolutely. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that is a fact. It galvanizes what kind of person you're going to be. It's really hard to describe. You feel so surreal, but it definitely makes you a stronger person. It makes you a more patient person. It makes you a more focused person. It makes you more empathetic. It short of the physical shortcomings that come along with this diagnosis, it affects you and makes you a better person all the way around.
I want you to someone that probably has sleep apnea, someone that probably has had 6 heart attacks, and they probably know about it. I want you to say something to somebody in their life to help them, encourage them, and let them know that, having 6 heart attacks is not the identity of who you are. It's just a pathway.
It's just a small side note.
It's side on the ship. So what would you say to them?
Well, first of all, I would say that if you don't feel rested and you have unexplained health issues, go get a sleep study, or at least talk to your doctor about a sleep study. 30 to 50,000 people every year die from it. It contributes to so many horrible health issues. It certainly was a factor in my heart issues. Sleep apnea is horrible for your heart. I dealt with it for decades, and certainly has contributed to my heart issues. But to the bigger point of your question is, you can define yourself, and you don't have to have these incidences define who you are. And if you do, you can make it a positive, good thing. And that's what I hope to do. And that's what I strive for. And as a part of me being a better person as well. You can make these into negative things, but your life will be harder. Your life's much easier whenever you have a positive note. And after you've survived serious health issues, it's easier to keep yourself in a positive light. Your days are better. Your food tastes better. Your experiences are better if you can be in a positive light through all this. And for many folks, God is that positivity that they need to be able to get through.
Longshot Farm.
Yeah, Long Shot Farms.
Take me through. I know you kind of mentioned a little earlier, but I want to go deep, get ready to close the show.
Sure.
But take me, what is Longshot Farm? How did you get created? Like, where can people go find it?
When I lived in southern Indiana, I lived in a very rural area. Actually, I was in such a rural area that if you wanted a coffee, if you wanted Starbucks coffee, you'd have to almost drive an hour.
Wow.
So you can imagine, being that far disconnected from everything. And so I find a lot of peace in living out in the sticks, so to speak. And I actually looked for property for about a year. And there were some caveats on the property. It had to be affordable for one, but it also needed to be flat. And there's not a lot of flat ground for small intensive farming anywhere. So it took us almost probably a little bit over a year actually of looking daily for a property. And just north of Camden, I saw a listing for some property for sale on social media, and I went out and visited it. I had all the attributes that I liked. It was between Camden and Kershaw, and just north of Columbia, about right at an hour. And the price was right, and I had the means and bought the land. I think after the third visit to the property, decided that this would be a good place. Vivian rides horses. She has a horse named Sherlock, and we had enough space that we could do a couple paddocks, a riding arena, a barn, and dedicate about 2.5, 3 acres to some very advanced horticulture projects meant for market gardening and CSA, community supported agriculture.
And for the people that want to be able to get in contact with you, help you out, or try to get tied in,
Sure.
what are some of the social media sites that they can find you on?
You can find us everywhere under Longshot Farm. Longshot Farm SC, actually. We have somewhat of a Facebook presence. We just got started within the last probably 30 days. But we've got a lot of interest in what we're doing. We would like to be able to serve the area of Camden into Columbia and all the way up into Charlotte. We can be found everywhere across all social media. They're Longshot Farm SC. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into The Shift. I'm super excited. I'm so thankful for you to be able to sit in front of me. And to you, I just want to tell you, thank you for sharing your story, coming onto this platform.
That was great.
And just being able to talk about the different things that you've been through in life.
This is actually the first time I've ever spoke about this publicly.
Wow.
So yeah. I saw whenever you had posted soliciting for stories.
Yeah.
And then I had watched a couple of your podcasts. I thought that's exactly the guy that I'd want to talk to.
Wow.
So appreciate it.
I genuinely just want to tell you, thank you for sitting here, because like you didn't have to do this, and
Great.
I just want to let you know your story is getting ready to impact somebody, and it's going to change somebody's life, and we're just hoping for the best.
Absolutely.
Thank you all so much for tuning into The Shift Podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Down in Bob's Coffee, 622 Canal Street, Columbia, South Carolina. Come catch a vibe down in Bob's Coffee. To my guests, we always say peace.
Peace.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, great. Perfect.
Thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me.
My name is Eric, and I'd like to welcome you to Vibes Coffee. We pride ourselves on fresh coffee and excellent customer service, but we are much more than that. Whether you want to hang with a few friends, get some work done, or experience the best brew downtown Columbia has to offer, visit us at 622 Canal Side Street. Come for the coffee, stay for the vibes.